Shared Future News volunteer Raquel Gomez interviewed Gerry McConville, director of Fally Community Council, based in West Belfast with a range of inter-community and community relations work. Gerry discusses his community development work over decades. This episode is part of our series on Northern Peacebuilders, interviews with individuals whose work and efforts contribute to better community relations in Northern Ireland. It is also available as a published article at Shared Future News.
Today we met Gerry McConville, who is the director of Fally Community Council, a community development organization focused on peace building and conflict transformation. Gerry refers to himself as a local fella who is enjoying life. He would like to see a future in which everyone can feel integrated and equal. Hello, Gerry. First of all, who is Gerry McConville?
Well, I'm married with 6 children. I was born in West Belfast. I've lived here all my life. I have lived through the main part of the conflict. I was about 9 in 1969 when the conflict actually started, when you could say it started. When I was 15, I was imprisoned for the first time for Republican activity. When I was 16, I was imprisoned again and spent 8 years in prison. I was released in 1984. I went back into the community and began working community development. I still am involved in politics. I was also imprisoned for a short period in America. I've had several attempts in my life from loyalist organisations. As I say, I was born and bred in West Belfast. I love the area. I could have moved out of the area, but chose not to. I chose to raise my children here in this area because I really believe strongly in the sense of community that we have developed here in our area. My children went to the Irish language schools. I'm an Irish language speaker also. When I was younger, I was very much involved in sport. I played Gaelic football and hurling for my local club, Lavjarg, and I'm still attached to that club now. So I'm just a local fella who is enjoying life, living in West Belfast, and thank goodness things are much better now and much better for our children, that we're creating more opportunities now for our children than existed when I was growing up. Life was very limited. Opportunities were almost non-existent. In terms of education, I went to a local grammar school when I was growing up, but I was arrested while at school and imprisoned. But I've returned to study at different times, and I've now I hold 2 postgraduate diplomas and a bachelor degree and other stuff as well, you know.
What is your work in the community?
A lot of the stuff that we do, I think a lot of the problems that exist is to do with poverty. Poverty's still very rife in areas like this. There's still a lot of young people not getting proper chances at education. And if you take a family that's struggling to make ends meet, a family that's struggling to put meals on the table, education falls a poor second. So where time should be set aside for young people to come in, children to do their homework, you know, parents are worrying more about existing, about paying bills. So, you know, young people from a very early age are denied chances. So I was very lucky in West Belfast here that a programme came about called the Social Investment Fund. Now, it's been a much maligned programme, but it was a good programme. So they established a board in each of the areas across the north. So there was 9 areas selected. I was selected onto the board of West Belfast, and we were asked to draw up an area plan. So what we did was we were allocated £12.5 million, which isn't a lot of money, but you know, it's substantial. And we got agreement locally for 3 key projects. One was an employment project, the other was an education project, and the other was an early intervention project. And I'm involved in all three of them, in either managing or running. So the employment program was basically, we took long-term unemployed, we found them jobs, and we paid them a wage. So money was going directly into the pockets of the local people. So we got work for 240 people. It lasted a year, and over 60% of them have retained those jobs. So there are people now in full-time employment. We have an education program. That program just finished. We have an education program. And by the way, when I say West Belfast, this includes Shankill. So this is both communities. So we have an education program which is now running, and it's run through the partnership board, of which I'm chair. And the education program looks at several different things. So it focuses on those children doing GCSE, those children about the age of 15, 16, and especially around maths and English, which are the two key subjects. So those students that are sitting just below the pass mark, we'll give them extra tuition to get them over the line, to get them their passes. So where appropriate, we'll give them one-to-one. Where not appropriate, we'll do extra classes after school. We'll provide extra support in the schools, just to ensure that those children get a chance. So for example, at Easter, we ran an Easter school in one of the colleges here. There was almost 300 young people gave up their Easter holidays to attend this school, which was on for 5 days, and we gave them the extra support in maths and English. So hopefully now that they've done their exams, that'll have helped them. We also do home tuition. So for example, if you live in an affluent area, if your child's struggling at school, you can buy a tutor in. People around here can't afford in the main to buy tutors in. So we'll provide tutors in the house. Now, there's two aspects to that. One is, and this is your basic literacy and numeracy for primary school children. One is, getting into the house, you're hoping to change the ethos of education. So you're hoping to teach parents how important education is for their children, but you're also giving a bit of respite to the parents. So if they're struggling with poverty, then we'll get in, we're taking their child, we're supervising their child, getting them into the habit of doing homeworks, getting them into the habit of understanding how important education is, and at the same time we'll then assess the parents, and if there's any further support we can give them, we'll give them. And then the third project was early intervention, which is coming to an end this month. So we've worked with 900 young people who are in danger of falling into the justice system, to keep them out of the justice system. And we provided a range of programs for them. That's an example of the work that we do across communities. So it's not defined to the Catholic community, the Protestant community, the Loyalist, the Republican community. But there's a lot of work we do also around peace building.
What impact have your work in the community?
Okay, well, firstly, around that type of work there, it's giving people a chance to get out of poverty. And again, in terms of the conflict here in West Belfast, a lot of people are saying things haven't changed. And if things don't change for the better, then we'll have failed in a political sense. So this is giving people hope, giving people the chance to get jobs, giving people a chance to get out of poverty, giving young people a chance to aspire to education and raising people's hopes. But much more of our work that, and perhaps I should have focused on, but I wanted to give you a wee thing about the social impact and how important I think that is. Going back to 2002, there was a lot of trouble around interfaces here in Belfast. And there was a dispute on at the time, the Holy Cross dispute. And I worked with the parents whose children were being stopped going to school. Basically what it was Loyalists blockaded a road where Catholic children were going to school, and the young girls couldn't get to school. So there was a major thing about this here. But what was apparent to me was that as much as I detested those who were stopping the children going to school, the best way to end that was to talk to the people who were blocking. Now that wasn't a very popular thing to be saying or to be doing, But we did open up talks, and eventually the dispute ended, but not only because of the talks, because of loads of other reasons as well. But one of the things that it taught me was that we need to find ways of bridging the gap whereby we talk to each other about the issues. So myself and another guy decided to take a chance and see could we start a project, and we called it Belfast Conflict Resolution Consortium. So we went to loyalist paramilitaries, the UVF and UDA basically, and we asked would they be interested in coming together along with Republican counterparts and community activists to see was there anything we could do to help bring about a better society. And there was a willingness to do this. So we managed to get some money and we employed a few people. So the strange thing was that Fally Community Council, which had been a target in the past for loyalist paramilitaries, they put a bomb outside their building, actually ended up employing loyalist paramilitaries in here in West Belfast. Now that was a big mood change, a big sea change. Firstly, from the loyalist point of view, where they actually felt safe coming to work in West Belfast, and from our own point of view, whereby we had a real mixed workforce, and we were delivering a lot of peace building projects. So the impact that has had is that, and again other factors as well, I'm not saying just this was the sole reason, it certainly wasn't, but it helped. We've more stabilised, more stability around interfaces. We've better communication across the city. If there's any problems, we can talk to each other. The key thing is we've built up relationships, and we've built up relationships of trust among leaders within the Unionist population and within the Republican population. And that helps alleviate any future problems, because if there's any problems, I know I can pick a phone up to somebody who I believe and who I trust, and I'll trust their judgment. And likewise, they know they can phone over into here and talk to someone. So we now co-deliver anti-sectarianism programs. We have an anti-sectarianism toolkit which we deliver. We deliver programs to young people, whereby we get young people from the Shankill, young people from the Falls. We get them to discover their own cultures, first of all, to see what they mean by culture, and then we get them to share each other's cultures. So, in the last few months there, we had young people from the Shankill experiencing Gaelic games and playing hurling for the first time. We had people from the Republican areas meeting marching bands and hearing what they had to say. So, there's a greater broadening of experience, and we're providing a broadening of experience for people as well.
What has generally gotten better since the Good Friday Agreement? What challenges remain?
I think sectarianism is still a big issue, but I think it needs to be tackled at the highest level. So we need a political agreement on that, because I think some people are paying lip service for their own party political ends. And I think we'll have to take chances and give leadership. So I think more leadership is needed. I think peace building and conflict resolution is a leadership-led process. And if we don't give leadership, the mass won't move and won't change. So we need to continually challenge our base. So political parties need to challenge their base to change. And I think that needs to happen at the highest level. And good leadership and good examples, working examples of that need to exist. But what has changed fundamentally is, firstly, we have, it's an imperfect peace, but we have peace in general. And that has to be good. I think we've convinced the majority of the population that they can pursue their political ambitions and their political aims through politics, through normal politics, that there's no need to resort to violence to achieve a political goal. I think what hasn't been achieved is recognition of the validity of the other side's position. Now, I think, if I'm honest, that from a Republican perspective, I think that has almost been achieved. We have Mary Lou McDonald recently saying things like that. She recognises the validity of unionism and the validity of people being British here. I would like to see that reciprocated. I would like to see that people saying, well, I recognise the validity that it's okay to be a Republican, it's legitimate to be a Republican, and it's legitimate to be Irish, living in this part of the island, whatever you want to call it. So I think there's challenges there that we still have to overcome. But on the ground, I think there's a great willingness to move forward. I think there's a great willingness among people to move forward. We saw it when Leo Varadkar went to the Orange Museum. You know, a couple of years ago there would have been a protest outside that. There was a lot of local women welcomed him, shook his hand and thanked him for coming. So, you know, I think those gestures are good. I think they help to build up. Arlene Foster has an opportunity here at the weekend. If she goes to the GAA Ulster final, I think that would be a good thing. So, you know, I think recognising each other's validity will help.
What is your vision for Northern Ireland?
Well, firstly, I would like to see it peaceful. But my vision would be bigger than the North. My vision would be for an all-Ireland settlement. I think that can be achieved. However, I think it's up to those who want to achieve that to outline their vision, to outline exactly what that would look like, to assure people that they wouldn't lose anything by being in an all-island context. I would like to see unionists being reassured that there is a part and that there's a future for them in a new Ireland as being British, as being Northern Irish, as being whatever way they define themselves to be. I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. So, you know, I would like to see that coming about, but in a purely transformational way and in a purely political way and a purely peaceful way. You know, I wouldn't like to see, obviously would never like to see a return to the past or a return to violence. So my vision would be of an all-island settlement. Some people say United Ireland. I don't like to call it that because I think that maybe is tainted in some way. But I would say a new Ireland and a new and inclusive Ireland where everyone feels they're equal, where everyone feels they have a role, where everyone feels valued, and where no one feels their identity is under any threat. Or, you know, for example, even, you know, if we look the LGBT community here, they don't feel very much part of a community when there's laws against and laws that do, you know, and I think we need to create equality for all, that we can't have equality for one, not equality for another. So I think we need to create an equal society where everyone's rights are guaranteed, and I think that would be best done in an all-island context.
How would you like to see the general public get involved in community relations work?
Well, I think that's the key challenge for us. I think our infrastructure here is very much blocking community relations development. So, firstly, we have, you know, mostly segregated housing. Now, I can't see how we can overcome that right away. I think we're talking generational change there, because where I live in a mostly Catholic area, but there are a few Protestants live there. But I'm not going to move house just because it would be nice to live next door to a Protestant. If I'm going to move house, it's because I want to move house, or, you know, I like a neighbourhood better, or get a better deal on my house, or something like that. So we're not going to be able to force people to move in together. However, where new housing is created, then I think we need to make that a challenge to try and make that accessible. You know, you can't force people. You can't say, I don't think it's possible to say, well, look, this housing here, 50% of it's going to be Catholic and 50% is going to be Protestant. Because you'll get not enough of one moving into the other depending on where it is. But I think we need to offer opportunities for people to mix more. I think there's a great opportunity for us. We need to grow our city centre. For Belfast to grow its economy, we need to grow our city centre. We need to put people into the city centre. And I think there's a great opportunity, especially for young people, to lead here and to give example, because in the main now, young people, we need to put young people into the driving seat here, because they're not as hung up in the past as we are. You know, so what's a major problem for me isn't a real big problem for my children. And if we can create opportunities, in say for dwellings in the city centre, people will move in out of necessity. They'll move in because, well, I like the social life in the city centre, so I'm going to move there. I work in the city centre, so I'm going to move there. And if you give reasons for people to mix, people will mix. So, you know, people will mix unwittingly in shopping centres, because I would know loads of Protestants come from the Shangle because there's good shopping in Andersonstown, and they'll shop, but they'll not necessarily mix socially. You know, you won't push a trolley beside somebody and say, are you a Catholic or are you a Protestant? You know, you won't, but they are mixing. So I think if we give people the opportunities, and real opportunities, not artificial ones, you know, so it's not like, come along and meet two Protestants, you know, do you want to meet a Protestant today or do you want to meet a Catholic? I think that's very artificial, but create real opportunities. The other thing is that we need to look at our transport system. Now, I know we're doing it with the rapid transit, but all our transport is linear. It all goes straight down the roads into the city centre. So we've nothing that goes around the city. So if I want to go to the Shangle Road, I have to either walk over or get a bus into the town and then get a bus up. So could we not create a transport link across? So if there's something on the Shangle I want to go to, it's very easy for me to get. At the moment, it's not easy for me to get to unless I drive. So I think creating greater connectivity between people, greater opportunities, but real opportunities, not artificial. And I think young people are our best hope for doing this, you know. And if young people are mixing in the city centre, you know, I know from young children, the older ones are starting to settle down now, but the younger ones, they went out and they mixed with everybody and anyone, and they had no hang-ups, they didn't care. I remember one night in my own house, there was a young girl, a crowd of boys and girls came back, my sons and daughter brought their friends back, and one of them says, her daddy knows you. And I says, oh, your daddy know me? And says, yeah. And I says, how's your daddy know me? He's a policeman. Right? So obviously he didn't know me through a nice thing, but there was my son and his daughter mixing. They didn't care, you know. So I think young people we need to invest more in young people, opportunities for young people, and you know, we need to push them to the fore. So we do.
What would physically represent peace for you?
I think the regeneration of Belfast and the creating of a Belfast identity. Because if you notice at the very start of my interview when I was talking about West Belfast. If someone says to me, where are you from? I'd go, I might say Belfast, but chances are I'd say West Belfast. So breaking those barriers down where we see ourselves as Belfast people, Belfastonians, or whatever they would end up being called. And I think that would be a great improvement for peace. For too long, there's been too many barriers, you know. The city centre was a cold place for nationalists, it's a cold place for unionists. The city centre should be for everyone. All our areas should be for everyone. We shouldn't be building two health centres, one the Prod side, one the Catholic side, two football pitches, one the Prod side. You know, so we need to look at our public facilities and start uniting them, start pulling them together. And I think there's a great opportunity here because also we need to bring in people from outside our country. We need to grow our economy. We haven't enough people here to provide the economy that we want. So in terms of Belfast, I think Belfast is talking about, is it 50,000 more people over the next 10 years? Now, you know, okay, you'll provide some of that, but we need to bring in, you know, foreign nationals. We need to make Belfast a very inclusive, a very inviting city, a city where people say, oh, I'd love to work there, it'd be a great crack, you know, or there's good opportunities there. Belfast is the place to be in terms of Europe. So I think that physically uniting Belfast and creating a Belfast identity, to me, would go a long, long way to building peace.
what human act would represent peace for you?
So, without getting it the wrong way, maybe a city full of crack, but CRAIC, the Irish term for fun, not the crack.
A wish for the future.
Yeah, well, my wish for the future would be, it's something that I think I've dedicated my life to do, would be tackling poverty and end of poverty and equality of access to opportunities for all. I think that would be very much the top of my list.
If you want to meet more peace builders and stories of Northern Ireland peace building, go to our site sharedfuture.news. See you there.